Anyway, welcome. I have to tell you a little story about how Nat and Joy have come to us tonight to be with you. I had sent them a few emails. Jenny McCormick, who is the head of ACE, I sent them a couple emails, and I didn't hear from them, and I would send them another email, and I didn't hear from them, and I would send them another email. I didn't hear from them.
That was the morning after the Oscars, about 4 hours after the Oscars, by the way.
Anyway, I took out the big guns, and Alan Heim, I said, Alan, send an email, an introduction to Nate and Joy, and say that I'm not a serial killer, and that I really want them to come to LACPUG and to talk. And so he did, and like 30 seconds later, I got a reply from Nat saying, we're in. And so that was the cool. So if you ever want to actually talk to somebody, you just get some of these big guns, these legendary editors like Alan Heim, and then you can do that. But anyway, thank you so much for doing this, because I know you are inundated with requests like these, because when I was researching and trying to get to learn about who you guys are, you are all over the internet. I mean, you have said yes to everybody.
We didn't know saying no was an option.
No, but that's really cool, because I've learned so much from you, and a lot of people just, after the first couple of ones, they said, no, I don't want to do this. But let's face it, a year ago, you were in a small room, in an unair-conditioned room, and working together in a very, very small room. And then before you know it, you were dressing up for red carpet, you were dressing up for red carpet, you were doing press, and all of a sudden your life completely changed. And that's a big, heady thing. So thank you so much for doing this, because it's, All right, I want to get that first question out of the way, because and I'll be the 1,000th person to ask you this. That Oscar thing, where they gave the Best Picture to La La Land. Where were you sitting, and what were you guys thinking?
You want to take it, or you want to go?
No, you go. No, you both. No, you both answer that question.
Well, I guess, unfortunately, in hindsight, they had us sitting right next to Tom Cross, the La La Land editor.
Oh, my gosh.
So, yeah, super right next to him. Yeah. And so they called La La Land, which is, what we expected. And they were in their speeches. And we leaned over and said to Tom, you should go up on stage. Everybody else, the cinematographer, composer, everybody else had been on stage. And he said, no, I don't like going up for that stuff. And I'm like, all right. And then, and we could see a little bit more than what the TV screens could see. And so there was this commotion happening in the wings, and obviously we didn't know really what it meant, but it just kind of triggered us that something seemed off. And then, so I think we were a little primed, and when that producer said, Moonlight, you won, this isn't a joke, Joy and I just screamed. In hindsight, I was like, oh, what did Tom Cross think of us? Just like screaming in his face because we had beaten his drum. But and we just kind of bolted up to the stage. We kind of had to nudge past people everybody was confused in the audience, and I mean, it was surreal. I mean, we were standing up there, and I look over, and Joy's consoling Warren Beatty and saying it could have happened to anybody.
Seriously, were you doing that?
He looked so sad.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
No, because we only saw what the cameras were going to show us, and he did kind of look confused, and he looked sad, and so did Jimmy Kimmel, even though he had the best line of the night, saying it was Steve Harvey's fault. But still, it was. Has it sunk in that you guys were editing the Best Picture award? I mean, how big a deal is that to you both?
Yeah, I think it's about 5 years away from sinking in.
Really?
I think it's still sinking in that we are nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah.
We're working in stages. Yeah.
No, it is. I mean, that's a big deal. You were nominated. What was that? So, what was that like when you were nominated? Did you stay up all night for the nominations, thinking that I got a shot at this?
I thought I was going to get a night's sleep, and that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But Joy was at Sundance while it happened.
I was at Sundance because another film that I worked on, Lemon.
Lemon.
Yeah, premiered at Sundance, and so thank you. One person
Yeah, well,
saw it.
let's talk a little bit about Lemon. Lemon got distributorship. I mean, it's you are all going to see that, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Because this was your first feature.
Yeah.
Lemon was your second feature.
Second, yeah.
And second sole credit.
Yeah.
Or first sole
First
credit.
sole
feature.
credit, yeah.
Yes, isn't that great?
Yeah, I'm excited.
I mean, your life has completely changed in the last, 18 months?
Less than that. Because
Less than that?
a year ago, we were still editing Moonlight. So yeah, it's been less than that.
Nat, your life is complete. Well, you get the Academy Award nomination. Your life is obviously going to change, but you've had a number of feature credits, which I'm assuming that's exactly what you wanted to do going to film school.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but it's still so different. I mean, especially with all that's happened. I mean, we're still processing because when you make a $1.5 million movie where you're
you want to repeat that again? It's a $1.5 million movie.
Yeah, and we really were. I mean, we were making, almost nothing. Working in one room together. We didn't have separate rooms. No air conditioning. One of us had to be on headphones at all times.
I was on headphones.
All right, we didn't talk about that. But.
No, because I had read that, and I saw one of the interviews that you talked about that you work in a tiny room. Joy's over here, and Nat's over here, and Barry's sort of going back and forth between you guys. I envision this thing where one of you just every once in a while, will you please shut up? I'm working on this scene because you're Barry's.
Yeah.
I don't know if we ever told each other to shut up, but I would,
well,
I would sometimes comment on scenes that Barry and Nat were working, like, it worked better before, or don't touch that line, and stuff like that, and vice versa,
Yeah, it was
right?
nice, yeah. I mean, I don't know if we would choose to work in the same air conditioned room again, but it worked out fine.
Yeah, but when you were working in this small room, this room was at HBO? Did I hear that right? Or
well, we at the very beginning of the process, we were finishing up Girls for HBO, and we did kind of on the sly do our assembly at the HBO at the offices for Girls. Yeah. Hopefully no one from Girls is here in the audience tonight.
It stays in this room.
No, we won't. No, even though we're taping this, it won't. Nobody will actually be able to.
Even though it's going up online,
nobody.
Will ever know.
No. We actually probably won't be able to show this on because we're going to show a couple of clips and we're going to talk about it. But the one thing about Moonlight, I think everybody will agree, is it's got some of the most extraordinary performances of every single actor in the movie, from the person checking out at the diner to the major players. I mean, there is not a badly cast actor in the entire movie, and you got all these dailies daily. And you were able to see all this stuff as it's coming in. Did you kind of go, oh my God, I got to bring my A game to this sucker because this stuff is really, really good?
I think the thing that was super beneficial for everyone being really good is that we didn't have a ton of time. I think in total it was shot in 25 days, right? And so, and Barry was, I would say, very specific about what he necessarily wanted in each scene. And so for us, I know a lot of people ask, if Nat and I had to, change our editing styles or anything like that while working on the film. And the answer is no. It's the script itself is so specific and so nuanced. And so basically, Barry had provided us with a roadmap of, where he wanted to go with this film.
But when you don't have a lot of time, is there a lot of prep? I mean, before the first daily comes in, if you don't have a lot of time. Or did you just make the time and just come in after each day's shooting?
Well, because we were finishing Girls while they were shooting. And so, for us, we were doing, we were pulling double duty. And so it was kind of splitting our time between the two.
So you got no sleep?
No. It was a tough time. But yeah, so it was basically when you sat down to work on Moonlight, you focused on Moonlight and you honed in on what each scene was supposed to be, and like you didn't have time to mess around. You had to stay focused, and so that's basically our approach for the whole entire film was shortage of time and working to our best ability and being, fluid between each other by like showing each other scenes and asking questions. And so when we, showed the film to Barry, it was already working.
So talented.
Over the years, we've had a lot of discussion on should I go to film school? And obviously it was fortuitous that you guys went to this film school. I would have never thought of Florida State as being a one of the top 10 film schools that I would choose. Why Florida State?
What's been special about it for us is that I think we were so far away from New York or Los Angeles that that we all really have, people call us the FSU Mafia, because we all really have stuck together really closely. I think just because we didn't know anybody else in Los Angeles when we all moved out here. And so we didn't have anybody else but ourselves. And like when we made Barry's first movie, that one back in 2007, it was literally a 6-person crew, and all of us were Florida State people, and it was just all people that Barry, it was a $15,000 budget, and it was just people that Barry could count on, that he could ask to come and sacrifice that time to work for free, and those were the people that were going to say yes.
Was Barry Jenkins at Florida State? Did you know that this guy's good?
Yeah. He made this film called My Josephine, which I think you can find online. And especially, I think it still holds up and it's still great.
Does. It's
but,
really good.
But especially when you saw what all the rest of us were making, and then you saw My Josephine, it was just like, wow, but he did. He had that voice. He had that voice really early on.
Yeah, but you guys obviously are pretty good too. Otherwise, you wouldn't have worked on this movie, right?
Not at directing. But.
No, but as editors, how much before we actually start to get in on talking about a few of the clips here, how much leeway did it give you to say, show me?
Definitely a lot. We did.
Because if you guys know each other, that's a whole different kind of dynamic than you would if you're working on Girls and you don't know the producers and the director and the network.
No, for sure. We all had a shorthand for sure. We kind of all forged our aesthetic together back in school, and we knew what Barry wanted, kind of backwards and forwards, and so we did the first assembly totally on our own, and then showed him that, and then working through his director's pass. If there were scenes where we kind of have this code word from film school that called bandry, and if Barry says that to us, we know what he's looking for, and it's kind of about pushing the style further, making bold choices. And so there were a couple scenes that I had assembled, when Juan teaches Little how to swim, and when the scene in the courtyard when the teenage Chiron encounters his mom. Those two scenes, they were working fine in the first pass, but he wanted to push it further. And he just said, "You gotta make a bandry, bro. Gotta make a bandry." And I knew exactly what he was looking for, and we nailed it on that.
Bandry is one of the professors' word for boundary. Is that what it was?
Yeah. It was this dumb in joke that kind of took on a life of its own and kind of has just this specific meaning to all of us.
Looking back, did you learn a lot going to Florida State?
Joy, go. I didn't talk too much.
I was enjoying
It's okay.
it. I know. I'm not very good at public speaking. It stresses me out. So I'll do the best I can.
Have another sip of wine.
I know. It hasn't kicked in yet. I would say, what was your question? One more time. Sorry. So sorry.
No, seriously, because we've had this discussion a lot.
Yeah.
Did you learn a lot from going to film school?
Oh, definitely. Because in film school, Barry was actually my cinematographer for 2 of my projects, and I was his production designer / costume designer / makeup artist on 2 of his projects.
When you said 2 of your projects, were these you directed?
I directed, Barry directed his. And
Were they good? Would you want to come back and show it to him?
No.
To us?
No, it's okay.
It wasn't good. Looking back on it, it wasn't good?
I would say that they were good, but they don't need to be seen again.
Okay.
They were amazing, but nobody can ever see them.
Yeah. What about you, Nat? Were your projects good?
No. No, I knew right. No, I had one that was.
This film wasn't bad.
Thanks.
Yeah.
No, I knew right away. I knew very early on that I thought I wanted to be a writer, And as soon as I started editing, I realized I was way better working with other people's material than my own.
When do you find that out? When can you admit to yourself what you really, really wanted? Like, I'm not good at that, so I want to do this. Because that's a hard thing to say. I mean, we all have egos.
Yeah. Well, I guess for me, like, I went to film school to be an editor. Like, that was the
thing.
You
did?
Yeah,
okay.
That was the thing that I definitely wanted to do. But I think working as a director, a producer...
Because I read you wanted to be a journalist.
Yeah, but then I switched to editing.
Well, good for you.
Yeah. It's kind of the same thing a little bit, you know?
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you're seeking the truth.
Yeah, ultimately you're a storyteller. And
Yeah.
so I just changed, you know, how I wanted to tell stories. But I think going to film school, like, we had to do everything down from, like, being, like, a Best Boy Electric to a key grip. And so I think it definitely informs you on how the filmmaking process is so collaborative. And so I feel like it makes you a better filmmaker when you understand where everyone's coming from. So.
Well, we want to. We got a couple of clips here we want to show and we want to talk about. And by the way, we're just riffing tonight. They don't know what questions I'm going to ask. I don't know what answers they're going to give. So we're going to talk about the swimming one. Now, how did you worked on the first 2 acts?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you worked on the 3rd act. But I'm assuming you kind of went back and forth, and you did some of the first 2 acts, and you did some of the 3rd act, because that's kind of how it works, right?
Yeah.
All right. So let's show this. Nat, you cut this scene. Mm-hmm. And why did you want to show this scene tonight among all the other ones that you also cut?
Good question. I don't know. It was, I mean, I'm happy with how it came out. And it was one of those scenes that Barry, I guess between those 2 scenes I mentioned, this one and the one in the courtyard in the 2nd act, those 2 scenes, Barry got so excited by what I had done in that 2nd pass that every day he would make me show him those scenes before we started working. I mean, he's probably seen.
Oh, really?
It's like 3 months worth of, we start. All right, let's start the day by watching the swimming scene and the courtyard scene, but yeah, I'm just happy with how it turned out, because it really was sort of like an improv scene. I mean, there was, I think it was only an 1/8 of a page in the script. Just Juan teaches Little how to swim, and Alex, that boy, didn't know how to swim, and so Barry kind of treated it like a real experience, like he was going to teach him, like Mahershala, the actor, was going to teach Alex how to swim, and they kind of just shot it very loose, kind of documentary-like, and so it really was a lot on the edit to find the scene. It was probably, I don't know. Do you know how much footage it was? How long?
A lot. Well, actually, it was that there was also a storm coming in.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a ton of footage of them, like him learning how to swim. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you didn't have
true.
like a ton of takes to choose from.
That's true, and there was a good amount of it that was like it would make you too seasick, but because it was too rocky. But there was a lot of footage that to sort through, and so I kind of had to treat it like an improv scene, and rather than kind of building it line by line, just watching the dailies the first time through, just watching them for your pure kind of experience, and that's the time you're going to be the most objective, experiencing the footage, and so it's important to just kind of be the eyes of the audience on that first watch through on the dailies. And then second time through, I just grabbed every moment that just kind of popped and put it all in a timeline that ended up being maybe 20 or 30 minutes long, and then just started whittling that down, just watched that 20 minutes and started taking out the things that weren't quite as compelling. And once I really whittled it down, just find a way to stitch, to get from one to the next. And then as I started putting together, I saw, the waves kept lapping over the camera every once in a while, and most of them were close to where I wanted my edit points to be.
Yeah.
So I started working with the waves and having the waves carry us from cut to cut. And sort of near the end and I started getting in that mode, so then near the end when he says, right before he sends him off swimming, says, I think you're ready to swim, the waves were really coming over the camera, and that like maybe 15-second chunk was about 2 times longer in the footage, but I saw that through the waves going over the camera, I could cut out, these 3-second chunks of just kind of dead space and pace it up the way it was.
How long did it take you to do this sequence?
I don't know, maybe, I'm trying to think how long first time through, maybe half a day first time through, and then Barry saw it, told me it needed to be more bandery, and
Bandery?
and then I probably went back in for a couple more hours, but yeah, there's lots of, the first shot, the shot that takes us from, Juan walks in, says, "Come on," Little walks up and is kind of staring at the shore. There wasn't any real logical thing to cut to next, and just based on how they shot it, and so we found this moment of Alex just kind of experiencing the water, and it was kind of it was stolen from a different moment, but it just felt like him walking into the water for the first time and experiencing the ocean water. So that was how we started.
Not only we have ocean water, we have sea breeze, we have the sound design, we have this music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's music throughout the entire movie, which is extraordinary.
Anyway, long story short, this was Barry's first time working with a composer.
You can use the stand.
Okay. And so I think Nick, the composer, really impressed him and went beyond what Barry expected. Because that cue in particular, Barry was dead set there was no way he was going to be able to beat it. He was so attached to it, and then Nick wrote that piece that became the music for the trailer.
Being this low budget movie, where did you do some of the sound design also?
Yeah, I mean, we did a lot. Yeah, that's true. Actually, the way you're nodding makes me remember that we actually did do a ton. I mean, I think Joy and I both always do a ton of sound in our passes anyway, because I don't know. For me, I feel like it's really hard to judge whether a scene's working or whether a rough cut's working if you have sound dropouts, and if you are constantly being aware of the sound not being spotty and not being right, then it's hard to really immerse yourself in the story. And so I think we've both always worked that way, that we really put effort into making it sound good. And then on this one, we really didn't have money for much of a mix, so a lot of it did end up being.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And did you do some of the color correction?
Color correction, not so much. I don't.
Okay, all right. Just we got to ask. I mean, it's a $1.5 million movie, and it looked like a gazillion-dollar movie. It's amazing that it was done for this amount of money. Yeah. Even though you're working in a small room in an unair-conditioned room, and everybody else had craft service, and you didn't. And so, which is good. All right, so I want to be able to give a lot of questions to the audience. So we're going to go to the next scene. What's really cool about this movie, and I know darn well that you had you wondered if you were making the right choices, but we live in this ADD world, and this movie breathes. This movie is slow. It allows us to slowly watch these characters evolve. And did you ever want to just speed the thing up because you just were worried that people weren't going to be as engaged?
Yeah, I think there was, we did do a pass where we sped things up, and I think it was a general consensus that we all hated it. Like it lost the essence of what this movie was about. And, there's this movie is so subtle, and there's a lot that's being said but not being said. And we definitely focused on those moments and those looks and those emotions that, the characters are giving us. And so, pacing it up did not work.
This would not have worked without the performances.
Yeah.
And it's certainly the performances that you picked, those eyes, those expressions, those moments that were everything. Otherwise, it just wouldn't have worked. What was the first screening like? I mean, was it like,
Well, first of all, the first screening, I won't say where it was because it's a fine theater, but
that one.
Yeah.
Oh.
The projection when we were watching it, when it came to treating people of color, it just basically lost all the information. And so the beach scene, you know, where where the teenage Chiron and Kevin meet up at the beach, it was like literally like headless men sitting on a beach, and I remember just being like, "Oh man, this is my favorite scene," and it just looks like flannel shirts flapping in the wind. I was like, this is not going well. So our first screening did not go as well as
was the first screening for friends and family?
No, that was for the producers, and so they became much more on our backs after that. That screening did not go well
at all.
And then, so we had to address their notes for maybe a couple weeks longer than we would have otherwise.
Yeah.
But the first time we did a friends and family screening was a couple months into the process, and that one was huge because it gave us so much self-confidence going into it. There was just none of us were really sure, you know, whether the movie was working, whether the silences were working, and then doing that first friends and family, Barry was so nervous. He gave all these disclaimers about the movie, and afterwards it was just one of those super rare things where, you know, afterwards you're inviting people to come and be critical and tell you the truth about what's not working in the movie, and the whole thing afterwards was just people just telling Barry how much they loved it and how much it meant to them.
And one of the articles I read about Barry was he said this movie almost killed him. I mean, was he a really nervous guy in the editing room, or were you guys having a good time? Were you guys, you know, finding it was all a wonderful creative process, and yeah, let's let it breathe some more?
I like the editing process. I feel like was a lot of fun, but this movie, a lot of elements of it hits really close to home with Barry. And I think while we were editing it, we were enjoying the process, but then when you realize you're about to share this story with the world and how much he was going to be exposed, I think that added some anxiety to, like, if he's going to do it, he wants to do it right. And so I think that's what he was nervous about. And so,
what about you guys? Were you the same way? Or is it you just trying to tell the best story you possibly can tell?
I think so, because, you know, as, you know, being a person of color, there's a responsibility that you have to your community. And, you know, there's a lot of, I feel like when people, you know, do ethnic stories, there's a lot of cliches that they tend to play into. And so we were looking for truth and honesty in the characters that we wanted to present. And, you know, and what Terrell wrote, who wrote the play that the film's based on, in Moonlight, Black Boys Look Blue, and the script that Barry wrote, they were both very compelling, and they were very rooted in the community that they came from. And so, you know, it would have been a disservice, you know, to the film and the writing if we didn't strive to get it right across the board.
Yeah, it blows me away that this was actually a play.
Yeah.
I mean, because this would be one hell of a boring play, because the dialogue is, I mean, plays are dialogue driven.
Yeah.
There's very little dialogue in this movie, which makes your job so much more fun and interesting. You know, where to cut.
Exactly.
I mean, my gosh, what a
yeah, especially
what a gift.
Especially in independent film, you know, you don't have the budgets to do. Sometimes you don't have the budget to do much else than have people in a room talking. And I've definitely done a lot of movies about people in rooms talking, and which is great too. But you know, it's so nice to have something that's so visual and lets you use style so much and work with music and just all this stuff that is so gratifying and fun.
I mean, my goodness. I mean, you look at the first 10 minutes of the movie. Mm-hmm. You know, very, very little dialogue with this extraordinary performance by Little. I don't know. I forget the name of the kid, but my goodness, what an expressive face.
Yeah.
And it would not have worked without him.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Naomi Harris, my goodness, she gets off a plane, does 3 days of work in the middle of press screenings and stuff for